Welcome back to the table. And I was thinking to myself, I've got some friends that haven't played D&D or anything like that before, and my personal favorite of the role-playing games right now is Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Now, that being said, I've kind of done an unboxing for this, and I think this is an amazing game. However, having no experience with Pathfinder 1st Edition, coming into this still felt a little daunting, and I helped some players. Like we've I would say muddled through it. We played it. We had a great time. There's some key concepts in here that I think are fantastic. However, though, for people who have never really played a role-playing game before, this still seems to be a little bit of a daunting experience for people. You know, if they're new to the idea of role-playing, this is a lot of material. It's a big book. So I think Paizo kind of heard my inner thoughts and the thoughts of lots of people, and they said, hey, how do we take this and put it into an experience for brand new people? Like, this book was already supposed to be super new person friendly. However, I think they took that experience and they've given us this. Now, they already had a first edition starter box, which I think did a really good job of helping people into Pathfinder. I wasn't one of them. I still didn't buy into it. I was really tempted to because of the things that come in it. Because if I compare a Pathfinder starter box with the starter box from, say, another popular competitor, their starter boxes were leaving something to be desired. They had like a couple books in them and some character sheets, and that was about it. But Pathfinder beginner boxes, I think, are fantastic. And part of me is still tempted to go and find a first edition Pathfinder, if not for the rules, but for the play mat and the standees and whatnot, because I think it's a great value. And that's what I wanted to do, was to grab this box for myself, second edition, and then use this to help ease in a couple people that want to get into role-playing but haven't yet. I pre-cut this because I struggle with wrapping otherwise. Well, let's see, what does this say it has? So it's got the 72-page Hero's Handbook. That's got the basic rules for you to play with. The 88-page Game Master's Guide. That's got an introductory adventure. Over 20 pages of monsters, rules for building your own, yada yada. 4 pre-made heroes, so you can jump right in. Cool. It's got 6 blank character sheets, which I'll make copies of, I'm sure. The monster pawns, full color map. It's even got some dice, reference cards. Great. So we already got some great stuff. Here's a little picture of it. So we got the standees. Pretty much, I think, because I don't have the first box to remember exactly what came in the first box, to know exactly if the contents compare exactly item for item. But in itself, this is great. Uh-oh, a little bit of... So let's see what comes in. Now, you may have already seen an unboxing, so you're not going to get a whole lot from this, from me. But if you haven't seen this, then I think this would be a good opportunity for you to check this out. Alright, so here's what I see when I first open it. First, we get these standees to hold your pawns. Now, just as I kind of reminisce through here, when I was looking at the first edition box, and I showed my wife the idea of these standees, she was like, meh, we have a whole bunch of miniatures. The problem with the miniatures is a vast majority of those miniatures still go unpainted. I gotta say that part quiet so you don't hear me, but yeah, that's great. We got these miniatures, but they're not painted, and they're just gray clumps of plastic. So, you know, there's ones we use that are painted, but I'll show you why that will be an important thing here in a little bit. So the standees. Then you got some starter dice, which, you know, cool. I appreciate it. And they're color-coded. From what I've seen other people talk about this, these are great because they're color-coded to matching resources in the book. So that's cool. And again, I think this set is really designed to help edge brand new people completely to the genre. So I think color-coded dice that match color-coded items in the box is brilliant. So I'll set the dice aside. Good job. Sirenscape. Yes, this is something that has truly captured my interest for a long time. Oh, this is nice. I'm going to keep this here. There must be a code or something somewhere because it says you can get a 30-day free trial, but I don't see a code on here. But like it's basically a soundboard. Well, I want to say basically a soundboard, but I'm sure it's much more than that. But the idea is cool. Music, background sounds, and things to enhance your gaming experience. Cool. Let's see. Here's the read this first, which is usually, I mean, I'll read it first, but if you are on your own, Pathfinder is designed for group play, but this box includes a solo adventure you can play on your own. Open the Hero's Handbook to page 2, play the Pirate King's Plunder, which will teach you the basics of the game. Sweet. And I love that way of learning a new game. I think that's probably difficult to do consistently because they're basically like choose your own adventures, but I have no problem with that. I think choose your own adventures are great. But incorporating it with a full rule set of a game like Pathfinder might be challenging. And it's got some ideas, things to do if you have a group. You grab a pre-made character. So here's the rules to make your own. And if you want to be the game master, here's your game master guide. Alright, I have skimmed that side first. And there's our plastic pawn bases. There's the pawns. There's a lot more pawn. I keep reading a different number. I thought there'd be about 100, but this says 124 pawns. So that's great. Fantastic. The flip mats are fantastic. We'll see how they are in here. And then you got some character sheets. Great. So that's the contents of the box. Here's the player cards. These are cute. I did see someone show these before. I think they're nice. I think that this would be... I might have printed something out similar to this for some of the characters I played with, but this is super handy. I especially like this side here. What can you do on a turn? That's the biggest thing with this system, where some things you do take 1 or 2 actions. So having this handy dandy little chart to say, well, here's what you can do, potentially how many moves it takes. Some things take more moves than this. But still having an idea what you can do, especially the fact that like your strike, you could strike up to 3 times. There's your penalties. So this is cool. I like it. On your turn, here's what you can do with your 3 actions. Awesome. And then we've got on the back your conditions. I did buy their condition cards, but if I forgot them or whatever, I think this is good too, right there on the back, because you go through some of these conditions quite a bit. Flat-footed. That's one that I still forget sometimes to take into account of stuff, because flat-footed is not really a concept in the other games that I play. So I do forget about being flat-footed and how that can affect things. Alright, so I like that. And there should be 4 of these. Well, is that more than 4? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Super. Well, that's good, because sometimes your game's 5. I've played... Oh, 6. 6 of these cards. Nice. Most things I see in a starter set only include like 4, but that's nice. I don't know if there's 6 of anything else, we'll find out, but 6 of those. And here are the pre-made characters. I've always enjoyed Pathfinder art, and I'm trying to get these out of here without bending them up too much. So let's see who we have. Let me move the box off to the side here. And I'm going to say classic characters. I think Valros I see drawn kind of different ways, but there's always the fighter. At least I hope that's how you pronounce it. Valros, I don't know. But the fighter. So first you got a nice picture on the front, full picture on the back, a little bit about him. I like this too. If you want to, fight on the front lines, use the best weapons and armor, react quickly to enemy actions. Sweet. And these are great. I don't know enough about the math to go and make sure that these are correct. But I'm assuming all this would be great. It's a he, him, alignment neutral good, level 1. Great. And then here's the color coding that I had heard mentioned. So boom, you got your dice are color coded to different actions that might be listed here. Looks like it's mostly there to color code. That's fine. But I do like this. So you have sections of the character sheet. Defenses, got a J. So just pop right over here, get a quick summary of what that means. So here's what your character sheet means. This is, I'm going to tell you, super good. I went to Origins a couple years ago, and this was, they had a Pathfinder 2 playtest. And they had characters that were 6th level. And they handed me a character sheet, and it had a lot of stuff. And I had absolutely no idea what any of that stuff meant. The character sheet that they gave, looked nothing like this, and it was very difficult to play because I didn't have a clue what my character could do. It was really designed, I think, for people that kind of knew what they were doing because they knew what to look for. Here, this is not a level 6 character, it's a level 1 character, but I think this is a really good example character sheet of what does our character sheet look like. Now, it still doesn't match the full game character sheet, but as a starting person, I think this is great. I love it. Talks about how your actions, some of them might take your 1 or 2 or even all 3 actions, a reaction, and I'm sure if I've got something on here that might tell me if it takes more, I'd have to look more. But I see they filled in the proficiency trained. They've only got 2 here, but you got trained, or if it's expert. At first level, you're probably not going to have much beyond that anyway. I'm sure you could find something to give yourself more, but there's always a way to get more of something. But I think this is great. Looks good. Spelled out very nicely. So that bonus plus that bonus gives me a 7 on the saving throw. This is great. I think it's really good. Yeah, over here, here's some abilities, right? Attack of opportunity, how to use it, your shield, raising a shield for an action, shield block as a reaction, sudden charge, 2 actions. Perfect. Yeah, this is what that Pathfinder sheet had, but I mean, it was like, let me just say, this is really nice. I know, why am I comparing an Origins character sheet of a 6th level character versus a 1st level here? I'm just saying, if they had a 6th level character sheet at Origins that looked anything like this, where it was organized, color-coded, and you could find stuff, that would be great. That way new people could have a good idea even what high-level characters look like. All that did to me was intimidate me from the game. Well, if this is what they look like at 6th level, do I want to invest that kind of time? But something like this where it's clearly laid out very well, this is great. I'm just going to leave it at that. Very good job on this. Alright, so there's the fighter. Ezrin the wizard. So play a wizard if you want to cast spells to devastate foes and protect allies. No secrets about magic and ancient lore. Or if you want to solve problems with your magic. Again, character art, story on the back. You can pause and read that. Probably too much glare. Okay, and then, oh, I just noticed they got dice down here. This is all good looking. I love their art. And again, you got your character sheet statistics here. Great. I love the layout. Calls out your abilities, your school, your spells there starting out. Ooh, equipment. I didn't notice that on the other guy, but equipment down here. There's your spell casting info. This is, I mean, I think this is really fantastic for a brand new person. It's a great way to start. Well, I got another thought, but let's see. Here's the cleric. Okay, so play the cleric if you want to support and heal your allies with divine spells. Know about religious writing and images. Oppose and destroy evil undead creatures. Nice. And then a full picture on the back. And then we open it up. And inside again, beautiful character sheets. My abilities that you can do right there. Some equipment. Right out the box, you can probably play immediately. Then play the rogue if you want to sneak up on foes to deal more damage, steal things without being seen, excel at a variety of skills. So, alright. And there we go. Oh yeah, full color art on the back. And there we got alignment class, Whisper Elf. Alright, criminal background, what you get from it. Perfect skills, ability, equipment. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, these are really good. Now, how many is that? That's only 4. I got 6 of the reference cards, 4 pre-made characters. That's fine. Alright, so we got books. Here's the beginner box, Hero's Handbook. Their books were great in the first starter box, so I would have no reason to think less of these. I love the color. I think that Paizo has always found a way to make things graphically appealing. And I think this is still graphically appealing. And here's my story. I don't want to spoil it too much, so I'll jump ahead a little bit. We get into the Ancestries. There's a dwarf, humans, elves, and very condensed compared to the main book, but and condensed as far as your options go for starting out. Yeah, it looks like just a few things there, so dwarf, elf, human, right? There's in the full book you got like your goblins and gnomes and things. But I have no problem with this starting out with just a few things, because otherwise, why reprint the whole book? This is just giving you snippets to get you going with some basic concepts, some idea on the background. And I like that it's color coded to help you reference your character sheet. Again, that's very cool to help you get started. And probably maybe a little bit more of explanation on those skills. I don't know if they're copied word for word to the character sheet, but different thing. Your cleric spells for you here in the book. I suppose, I don't know if this is for the player to purchase, or because, with one, if every player bought their own, it's like $30, but then you could, have you don't have to keep sharing this one book with all the new people. If you were a new player, this might be good just to buy your own. But then you'd have so many copies of tokens. I don't know, but then if you ever DM'd, if you went from player to DM, you'd have everything in the box. Alright, so we have here the wizard, your spells explained in more detail, up to 3rd level. Talks about starting equipment for the different classes there. Ooh, there's your light armor stats, medium armor, heavy armor. Yeah, it's like a condensed down. I do a lot of wargaming outside of role-playing, and there's a game called Advanced Squad Leader, and they made a starter kit for Advanced Squad. They have several starter kits, and I've seen different thoughts of opinion on starter boxes. So with Advanced Squad Leader, the thought was, well, the starter kits do you an injustice because they teach you very few aspects of the game. Like, they teach you some aspects, but some of those aspects are watered down compared to the full game. Well, I mean, it's a starter kit, you would expect that. But does that train you incorrectly for when you hit the full game? Because the full game has so much more. So I don't know exactly how a person might feel like, is this too watered down? But my thought is, if this is going to get you a starting point without being too overwhelming, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you hop in, learn some basic concepts, and then build upon that as you, move into the full book? Obviously, the full book will have more classes, more races, more skills, backgrounds, and things like that. But that, I still think, like for me and my group, was still very overwhelming, because without not having any kind of reference point as to what things are and what they do, it really felt like a lot. And I'm looking through here, and I can still see there is still quite a few things that you can choose from in here. Society, stealth, survival, thievery. So I think having a starter kit like this for Pathfinder, I don't think is going to hurt your ability to switch into the full game. In fact, if I remember right, in the first edition, there was even, it might have been a separate free download or something that gave you tips and pointers on how to ease into the full rulebook. So even if you felt like you were missing things from the basic set, when you were ready to switch, and usually that switch came, I don't remember if characters went to 5th level in the first one. It looked like here they might go to 3rd level. But either way, there was tips and pointers on how to transition your person from, say, a 3rd level character here to a 3rd level character in the full book. And you have enough information and knowledge, I think, then to look at the full book and make a character from scratch. So again, I don't think there should be any problem using the starter, enjoying the starter, and then moving on to the full book. I don't think any rules are changed, but you probably are just missing some flavor. Yeah, because you got flanking, targeting, cover. All that seems to be in here. Leveling up. Okay, as you go on, as you go on adventures, defeat opponents and solve challenges, your character will gain experience points. Here's how you level up. And right here, this isn't quite the full thing I was thinking on, but beyond 3rd level, this box provides all the rules you need to play Pathfinder up to 3rd level, but the game doesn't stop there. As you've been exploring your hero in the beginner box, you've built a character that's 100% compatible with the complete Pathfinder game. So, there is letting you know that this is not watered down. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. There's nothing in here that would keep you from taking this character to the full game. Maybe you might be missing some choices you could have made in character creation, but there's been nothing changed. So 100% compatible means to me the characters that you made in here are 100% compatible. Nothing was changed to teach you a mechanic differently. You just might not have as many choices and options mechanically. So then you can go all the way up to level 20 or try out different ancestries like gnomes and goblins, or different classes like barbarian and sorcerer, and with all sorts of new spells. Well, see, that's another thing too. A lot of times you get a role-playing game, and if you have several magic using classes, these spell lists are really short compared to what you might find in the full book. So that's good to know, that nothing in here was changed for the sake of making it a beginning experience. You just don't have access to everything available to you in the beginning experience. So yeah, I honestly don't see why you shouldn't pick this up if you're new to the system. I can't say that I'm entirely new to the system, but as a young dungeon master with this stuff, or whatever you want to call adventure master, game master, I think I would benefit from this as well. Because there's probably quite a bit I've overlooked in the fact that I've been sorting through everything with my players, and there's a lot to go through. So I'm very excited about this. I love these character sheets. Now, I would say only problem with these, well, it's not a problem, because as you have your, see, this is why I'm almost thinking players would want to pick up this box set too, because when they got their book, and you notice, right, these things were color-coded to the items on the color sheet, on the character sheet. If you only had one, then your players might be, or unless you, I don't know, copy this page and hand it, like, okay, you're playing a human, boom, here's the human. That way they can look at their color codes and their letter codes to the character sheet. Let me see if the classes were that way. Cleric, yeah. So either A, you got to photocopy this and then hand it to them. I mean, that's not bad, I suppose. But then you can color alphabetize code the parts you see in the book, because there's a bunch there, with their character sheet. Otherwise, the character sheet by itself without reference to the book means nothing. And only having one of these, I think your players would be wanting to, share it around. So I guess, I don't know if I haven't looked to see if there's any code preventing you from photocopying, because some of these games, they'll say specifically you have permission to copy something, but not all the content. So I guess that might be a good argument for your players to buy their own starter box. I wonder if they would ever sell this by itself. That might be something. Or maybe a PDF by itself. That way players would have the information they need to run their character and match up with the character sheet. Just a thought. Alright, so you get, I think it said 6 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have a problem not wanting to write on or use the original materials, so I'll probably copy these. Because it says permission to photocopy. So I'll probably make copies and save the originals. I don't know why. They're there for me to use. Alrighty, here's the beginner box Game Master's Guide. Paizo sent me a PDF of the full Game Master Guide, so this is nice to have. PDFs are great, but sometimes, oh, don't look if you're a player. Don't look, golly. But sometimes just having a book in your hands, nothing sometimes beats the feel of Dead Tree. Alright, I'm skipping through the adventure here. Alright, then we get to the game mastery stuff. Experience points. Difficulty classes. Building adventures. Here's a sample. Man, this takes me way back. I remember drawing dungeons with my friends. So many. Seeing who could out dungeon somebody. Those were the days. Graph paper, meticulously drawing out rooms and all kinds of stuff. forest environment. See here, underground. Ooh, giant scorpions, traps. This is good. A little bit touching on things here, detecting hazards, traps. I find all kinds of supplements, but I really need a supplement that's got puzzles. I try to sometimes make my own puzzles, but I'm like, because when I send people through a dungeon, at some point you get tired of making just what they call it, murder hobo type adventures, where you're just simply running through the dungeon, killing everything. So sometimes I try to throw in like a puzzle, like you see something on a door, something here, and you realize symbols match, you rearrange things. But sometimes trying to find that balance between what a player knows, what a character out of character should know, how they translate that knowledge into some kind of puzzle that has mechanical elements, but you don't physically have things to manipulate, so you got to role play it out, which could lead to traps and hazards. But so you want things that are kind of meaningful, not just simply there's a carpet across the floor. I've crossed the floor, and you fall in a pit trap. But things that traps that are difficult to find, or if you fail the puzzle, it triggers a trap. So having ideas in here how to think about that, and I see some examples: hidden pits and venom lock. Sometimes for me, those are more challenging things to come up with, are puzzles and traps, so that your dungeon has more to it than just simply goblins in this room, mummies in that room, magic items. And this is always cool too. I'm generally rather stingy with magic items. They'll do a whole adventure and might find like a ring of +1 to something. I rarely give magic. I don't know. But I think it's nice to see some ideas. Healing potions, what they can do, some other things. We've got quite a few items in here to give out. They're in here. Might as well use them. And the creature stats. Good, because they have a lot of pawns. Might as well know what the stats are. Cool, this is great too. Stat block, pictures, beautiful. Doppelgangers, wormlings. Look at that, lots of stuff. Don't look at the stats. Little goblins. Yeah, again, I always love their art, but this is slick. You have a bestiary in here. Fantastic. You have a lot of creatures to choose from. So don't make your dungeon just simply this room has wolves, that room has ogres, that room has zombies. Purpose build it. Why does it have zombies? There's a little city for you to get going from. Experience points. Oh, that would have been one nice thing to include. Maybe some sort of basic dungeon master guide, or not guide, but the DM screen that has some of these charts in it. That would have been maybe the icing on the cake for this product. Here's the flip map. I think I got enough room I can lay this out. Oh, and it's nice and big. Oh, and it's not just simply paper. I knew it would be something like this. This is big. The camera's kind of tough. I can't really move it all around, but this is pretty big and should fit the adventure nicely. This is super. It's fairly thick, and it's got this nice coating on it, so you can, with a marker, preferably dry erase or something like that, you can make notes, draw on it, and it's double-sided. Nice. Again, probably a spoiler. If you're a player, don't look. This is really nice. I think this, I could use this, obviously with the adventure, but at some point, sometimes you find ways to reuse maps. People might be like, didn't we do that? Well, give it like a year between. They won't remember. Maybe they will remember. I don't know. But I've always liked their flip mats. It's nicer than just paper. Gives you some heft. Clearly it's bent, so you're going to have to counter bend it and whatnot to get it to lay flat. But that's easy to work with. So this is a really nice flip mat. Okay, so we'll set that there off to the side. And the pawns. Ooh, we got a bunch of pawns. All right. And these are great. So I saw this years ago, like when the first Starbucks came out, I think is where I first learned about pawns, and then it kind of really exploded from there. I'll tell you, like my wife, she didn't like them because she's like, oh, it's just cardboard and it's flat. But the thing is, at the same time, you don't have to paint them. They're ready to go. I will say that I agree with one complaint that I have heard multiple times, and I see it here now, and it's really glaring, is the artwork for the creatures is fantastic, but on some of these guys, they've cut off parts of them, like the Orc Trooper, menacing axe, until you put it as a pawn, and then he just has a staff. So that's not a deal breaker, but if I was going to say one complaint, and I tell you though, if my one complaint is that part of a creature is cut off, that's not too bad. It's just a real shame because you see full color art for something, and once you pop it out, part of it's cut off. Not everybody is affected by that, but like there's part of his weapon is gone, part of his weapon is gone, her weapon, that person's weapon is gone, part of his claws are gone. So I mean, ultimately, not a deal breaker. Most creatures aren't affected by it, but now this goes from tail to no tail. Let's see. Yeah, like I said, you gotta look for it. Some of these don't look affected at all. Animated dude loses part of it, but that aside, beautiful. Oh, and I just noticed this because I was trying to find something that shouldn't be a problem. Is action tokens. I haven't seen in the past a need for that, but I guess possibly if you have, like, if you give each of your players 3 action tokens and a reaction token, right? This might be a good visual way to, yeah, I never really thought about your actions as like a resource, but if that's your pool of resources and you do an action, you're like, you know, okay, this is one action. I visually see I have 2 actions left. I can do a thing. And I still have a reaction. Let me hold on to that. Oh, I just did something that triggers a reaction. Let me put that in my spent pool. That's kind of a cool little concept. I'm okay with that. Just to kind of get people used to it. Since I've never had that as a resource, I've never thought that I would need that as a resource. But now that I see that they're here, and you have maybe enough to give out to 4 people, 6 people, 4 people, I don't think that's too bad of an idea. I will probably use that. So there is. Oh, and then you have probably seen this before, but I like to play with stuff. I'm going to grab the Wizard Elf Male. Ha 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 ha. And he's not cut off at all. He's got all his bits and pieces. And there you go. Boom. And they fit well too. This is nice. It fits in snug. Oh, there's a little piece inside that digs into the counter a little bit just to help keep it snug, but I don't think that's gonna hurt the token in the long run. And then you just there you go. Boom. I now have a person. I might not have a miniature, but I got my pawn. I've never had a problem with these. I know some people do. I love their pawns. I think they're great. I think they're artistically enjoyable to look at, and it gives you the ability to play the game without buying a lot of miniatures. And if you don't punch them all and you just keep them in here and pop it back in when you're done, you can perfectly store them away. I see videos where people like punch all of them and have these complicated organizational systems, and they're like, I've run out of space, or how do I store them? I do this with a lot of board games. I just put the piece back in. And as long as you are mostly getting that particular pawn back into its original holder, you don't really damage it. It's only if you try to force, because the cuts aren't always 100% exact from counter, pawn to pawn. I'm just comparing it to a board game. These are probably cut just fine. But if I try to shove, for example, I've got 3 kobolds here. If I take the kobold that was here and try to put it in here, there could be some variations in the fit, and over time that's going to wear the edges down and can cause some fraying on your piece. So if you can find a way to carefully put back that kobold in that spot, then these trays, I call them these little counter sprues, should have no problem housing these counters for a long time. And yeah, at some point they get kind of loose and can fall out easily, and then you may at some point need to come up with a better solution, but I don't think you use a Hellhound every single time you play. So these might hold up pretty surprisingly well. And look, now that I'm done with them, I just put them right back here and they fit back into the box perfectly. No other storage solution needed. Alright, and the last thing we have is Welcome to Pathfinder Society. And I think this is who was doing the game at Origin that I did, and they provided all the character sheets and things like that. And I think this is definitely, I think, a good place to start if you want to get help with Pathfinder and you don't know much. I think sometimes people think the Pathfinder Society is for like veteran players, but I've had people explain to me that this is actually a very good place for brand new people to start. Good place to meet folks, ask questions, learn, play, and I hear they do things, events, that if you participate in events you can sometimes earn rewards and things, and I think that's cool. And then here the adventure continues. Core Rulebook, Bestiary, Advanced Player's Guide, Game Mastery Guide. I have the PDF for the Bestiary and Game Mastery Guide. Thank you, Paizo. Now I need to get the Advanced Player's Guide, and I got the Core Rulebook. Thank you, Paizo. So this is like definitely, I think you see a little bit of the Game Master Guide, Bestiary, Core Rulebook here. I don't know if anything was pulled from the Advanced Player's Guide, but definitely something to get into. And then, you know, continue on with the rest of the product line. Well, that's a lot. I know I talked a lot about stuff. Hopefully you learned something from that, or some new insights to things. If you're already an expert with Pathfinder and the starter box and whatnot, thanks for watching. Leave some comments. If you're not familiar with Pathfinder or the starter box, again, yeah, I hope this was informative for you. But I do have a couple of new players that I am definitely going to unleash this on. So I'm going to read up on the adventure and play it with them, and I'm excited. I think the little bits and pieces that this has is going to give them some visual impact that they don't have otherwise. Because now I don't have to worry about packing a lot of miniatures. I'm very excited about using the pawns. Well, to me, I think maybe one reason I really like the pawns is it gives me that old school feel. Because when I was a kid and we played, we didn't have miniatures, or very few miniatures. I think sometimes we made our own kind of pawns. Like we would take and draw figures on paper, and you would cut it out to like you would fold it so it looked like a little teepee, and had a little bottom connection thing. So we made our own pawns. So maybe that's why I love these pawns so much. It kind of takes me back to when I was a kid. Yep. And then we got the cover. So that's what comes in the Pathfinder beginner box, and those are some of my thoughts on it. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please don't hesitate to leave your comments, and I look forward to showing you some other things from Pathfinder in the future. Alright, thanks a lot. Have a good night.